Today, I'm talking about how to run a discovery call without using closing techniques. So if you're a coach, therapist, healer, or other service-based business owner, you've probably done a huge amount of work to attract that potential client to be interested in working with you in the first place. And it can be really disappointing to see all of that come to nothing because you don't know how to guide a client through a really effective but non-pushy, supportive, respectful discovery call. So today I'm going to talk about what is a discovery call, and then I'm going to talk you through how I run my discovery calls and how I teach my clients to run theirs. And importantly, how you do this without using manipulative sales techniques like closing and objection handling. This way you can take your potential client through a supportive conversation that ends with them saying yes please to working with you, providing it's right for them, of course. I'm Watkin of Selling from the Heart, and I teach heart-centered business owners how to enroll clients and grow their businesses without compromising their values by resorting to manipulative sales and marketing techniques. So first of all, what is a discovery call? Well, a discovery call, it's basically your sales conversation. As difference-making businesses, we don't necessarily want to tell our clients this is a sales call. It's not necessarily the feel that we want our business to have. So a lot of coaches, consultants, healers, therapists, they choose to call their sales conversation a discovery call. They might call it a consultation. You might call it a chat to see if we're a good fit to work together. You might also choose to give it a unique name that fits your business. And I call this your high value free session, but I'm not going to go into detail on that today. This unique name might be something like a health MOT, a possibility session, a life you love audit, something that is more unique to your business and your offering. So the structure that I teach for a discovery call, also known as a sales conversation, is called the 7 steps to yes. And I'm going to talk you through each step and the purpose of each step, because I find that when you know the purpose of each step, it helps you to adapt it to feel authentic to you. So step 1 is set the scene. Step 2, open up. Step 3, explore problem. Step 4, test commitment. Step 5, compelling future. Step 6, present solution. And step 7, ask for a decision. There's your 7 steps to yes structure for an authentic, heart-centered sales conversation. So step 1, set the scene. It's a very short step at the beginning of the conversation, and this is where you establish yourself as the guide for that conversation, because one of you needs to be the person who leads it. It also establishes permission for making your offer later on, because if you and the client are going to be a good fit, you will invite them to go ahead and work with you. So this is where you establish the permission and get that sort of agreement between you up front that may be happening. And this is also where you create safety, where you let the client know that there's going to be no obligation, that they go ahead, that there won't be any pressure, that you're really happy to have this conversation and help them to explore it. I always say that if your client feels safe to say no to you, they will be more able to be present to that conversation, which means that they're actually more likely to say yes. Step 2 then is called open up. Step 2 is simply about building trust and building safety. So you're not going to go too deep in this stage. You're going to ask fairly general questions just to understand the potential client a little bit more, what's prompted them to book this conversation with you today, to tell you a little bit about what's going on for them, but you're not going to probe too deeply. When you sense that the trust is there, that the safety is there, that the rapport is there, and that the client is relaxed in the conversation with you, that's when you move into step 3. And step 3 is called explore problem. Now, this is not about the type of sales that is about creating problems that the client is not already aware of, or creating fear and then trying to get them to buy from you based on fear. This is instead very much about the fact that if your potential client has booked to explore things with you in the first place, it's because there will be some sort of problem or challenge or obstacle for them to them achieving whatever it is that they want to achieve in their life, in their relationships, in their health, in their career, whatever it might be. And so the explore problem step is not about digging up problems that don't exist. It's about encouraging the client to focus on what is really going on for them. What's prompted them to book this call with you? What's going on? What's the impact that's having on them and other areas of their life? What's it costing them? How do they feel about it? How do they feel at the prospect of this not changing? Then you'll move into step 4. And step 4 is test commitment. Again, this is a very short and sweet step where you're literally taking the temperature. You will literally ask one question in order to get a sense of how serious is this person about doing something to resolve this. You're not going to do anything with that information, but it gives you a sense now of where the conversation is going to go later on, and it can also help give you that sense of control, because if you have a sense here that maybe they're not that serious, then that can help you make sense of why they might not go ahead at the end of your sales conversation. Then step 5, compelling future. This is where you'll ask questions to help the potential client connect with a vision of how things could be instead. Because if someone's going to invest time and money in working with you, it's not enough that they are aware of the problem, challenge, or pain. They also absolutely need to believe that there's a different future possibility out there for them. And in order to believe it's possible, they need to be able to connect with that vision. Step 6 then is present solution. And this is where, if at this point you pause and you've asked the client questions and they've answered your questions, by now you should have a really good sense of whether this is somebody that you can help and whether you wholeheartedly believe they should be going forward to work with you. And if you do, you'll move into step 6. You will present your offer. And you'll present it in terms of its value to the client and the benefits to the client based on what you've learned about them in the conversation so far. And if you do this really well, the client will know if they want to go ahead or not. I call this the internal yes, where you present your solution and how you can help in a way where you can clearly articulate that value to the client, and they hear that and it really lands for them. They feel that you get them, everything that you say makes sense, and they'll be having this internal feeling of, yes, I think I actually want to do this. Now, they're not going to perhaps say that just yet, but that feeling within them means if you have that feeling, then you don't have to impose the yes on them. You don't have to then close them and use lots of sales techniques to get them to say yes. You'll then go to step 7, which is ask for a decision. Again, really short and sweet. You check in and ask them, what do you think? Would you like to go ahead? Or a slightly softer way of saying it, what do you think? Is this something you might be interested in doing? What you're aiming for doesn't mean you'll always get it, but what you're aiming for is to get a yes or a no. If you get a clear yes, you know where you are. If you get a clear no, you know where you are. It's what you're aiming for. You won't always hear that. You might hear all sorts of other things. You might hear, I'm not sure, I need to think about it, I need to ask my partner, I'm not sure if I can afford it, it's too expensive. There's all sorts of things you might hear. Now, depending what you hear in response to your question about do they want to go ahead, there will then be a next phase of the conversation. That might be getting them booked into your calendar and taking payment. It might be helping them through any concerns or resistance they have about going ahead. Maybe it's fear of change, which is quite common if you're in a transformational type of a business. It might be addressing, I can't afford it, or I need to think about it, exploring more what's going on for them. And, if they've had the internal yes in step 6 and they're not sure if they can afford it, chances are they'll be open to a conversation about how that could work. What you will not need to use here, if you've done steps 1 to 6 really well, is you won't need to use closing techniques like the ones taught in a lot of traditional sales training. Because if the client has already had the internal yes, then you're literally able to have a collaborative, supportive, respectful conversation that helps them come to that final decision. So I hope that was useful as an introduction to how to run a discovery call. I've been teaching this process now for 13 years. I've had hundreds of students go through my program. It works really well, and it's particularly effective if you're a coach, a healer, a therapist, or any sort of service-based business where you've gone into business primarily to make a difference and help others, as opposed to making money at all costs. Because for that type of business, where when your client says yes to you, they're actually entering into a longer term relationship where there needs to be a lot of safety and trust established from the very, very beginning. Those sorts of relationships don't tend to function very well if they're built on a sales process where the person was basically manipulated into saying yes. You want your client to be fully emotionally and psychologically on board when they sign up to work with you, and you want them to feel really excited and optimistic about that decision. If you would like to learn more from me, you can sign up to get the 7 Steps to Yes in a 7-video format. It's a short video series. You can sign up at sellingfromtheheart.com, 7 steps, and subscribe to me here on YouTube. I am creating regular videos at the moment, so subscribe to me here so that you'll get notified when I create a new one. And if you have anything particular that you'd like me to do a video on, just let me know. Lots of love. Bye-bye.